good morning. Welcome back to the Junius Maltby channel. We're back. It's fall. There should be more videos coming as I try to get back into the groove of things. It's always difficult coming out of the wilderness, coming out of the wilds, and spending time just in the beauty of nature, and being confronted and faced with just all the refuse, garbage, filth, news cycle, headlines, celebrities, politicians, the modern world, the noises and sounds and technologies, and both the pollutions, just all the pollution. I mean, there's so much of it. Noise pollution, chemical pollution, visual pollution, and just rather be other places doing other things. But you can't be an ostrich. You can't put your head in the ground and just, I guess, let things disintegrate. You got to try to do something. So that's, again, a reminder, purpose of the channel, purpose of this community, you guys, myself, spreading the word, trying to help others become a little bit more aware to maybe somehow make a tiny decision at some point during the day in which they don't comply, in which they resist, buck the trends, or try to send a message to somebody else to not engage in the system the way the system wants or intends them to engage. Alright, soapbox rant over. Let's try to get into the filth, the refuse, the disease that is the news. Here we go. Here's how the Fed and others will drive gold to 1700. It seems like these headlines pop up every so often, especially in the fall when everyone gets scared, and like little peasants we are, we try to put our crops up to survive the winter. Will gold go to 1700? I don't know. Roll some dice, flip a coin. My opinion, it is. Of course, you know that. Gold's going to go up because fiat currency will die. And when fiat currencies die, well, the commodities that are priced in that fiat currency tend to rise. It just happens to be the case and the theme throughout history. Well, Deutsche Bank is saying that gold should go up, and other entities as well share that opinion. Credit Suisse issued a bullish note on gold last week, citing continuing global uncertainties as the main driver. It said that the post-Brexit hangover is pushing the price of the precious metal and expects the price of the yellow metal to break the US $1,500 barrier as the trend continues into 2017. I don't see anything wrong with that assumption. I don't see anything wrong with that theory. I think it's kind of obvious given the circumstances and given what you see in the headlines. Now, I remind you, I haven't been paying a whole lot of attention to the headlines. I just came out of the woods and doing other things, spending time not looking at the headlines. So some of the stuff I'm reading here might be dated by a couple of days, a week or so. I tried to pick some relevant ones for today. But like I said, yeah, it's hard to shake off the chains of apathy once they kind of start to wrap around you. It's hard for me to care because I know I've got my life in order. I've got myself situated. I'm taken care of. I'm safe. I'm in a good place in a lot of ways. So depending what happens and the timeline of when it's a pretty broad term. What is it? Depending when this economic uncertainty, depending on how insecure the world might be in the future, depending upon the time frame when that occurs, I don't know. I feel pretty good about it. Do you? Do your friends? Do your family? Or are you just, wandering down the street playing Pokemon Go like a digital zombie? Because that's what a lot of society is doing today. And I don't want to pick on Pokemon Go because it might be cool. I know some children who play it, and they seem to be quite entertained by it. The adult version of Pokemon Go might be fantasy football, fantasy baseball, fantasy volleyball, whatever fantasy sports team people tend to believe they manage. Watching sports, watching Entertainment Tonight, watching The View. Everyone has their own version, their own distraction that might be menial. And I'm not saying those are bad. We all need those. I mean, some of my distractions might be interpreted by some people as being an ignorant waste of my time. but I guess that's where we would differ. I'd like to look at some of my distractions as being a little bit more productive, maybe a little bit more beneficial in their application in life. But haven't been paying attention. Hopefully you guys have been keeping up on some of this stuff. But look at, here we are, gold rising. One of the factors, again, economic uncertainty. Well, what are some of the triggers that we could see occurring here in the future? Well, here in North America, we've talked about this in the past. You can Google it, search it on in the archives for this channel. Canadian housing market. Again, it's popping up in the news. It's showing up as being potentially on the brink again, ready to pop. It says the Canadian real estate market is on the verge of a massive bubble. This is a warning from a former Lehman Brothers executive. These guys know firsthand the taste and flavor of major bank failure. These guys were some architects, if you will, no pun intended, of houses that came to collapse. Now he's citing a struggling Canadian economy and high debt-to-income ratio. High debt. Now keep the word debt in mind as we move through today's headlines because the theme comes up again. Debt seems to always rear its head. We're going to bring it up when we talk about some millennials. Jared Dillon, a financial analyst based in the U.S., said in an interview with the Malden Economics that Canada was approaching an extreme bubble territory as evidenced by increasing home prices. All right, millennials, this article seems to be about you. The really bad money decision millennial homeowners are making. Seems like they forgot about the mistake that the generation just immediately preceding them made. Some of them were actually probably involved in the '08 financial crisis as well. They were just younger. But looks like they are taking, if you read the article about it, this is just the headline, they're taking on debt and taking out seconds and mortgages and refinancing and so on in order to fund entertainment and recreational lifestyle activities. And that's all fine and dandy if they have the income to eventually pay it off very quickly. Again, but I would argue it's never a good idea because I think debt is horrible. You're paying interest. You're paying more for the service, more for the experience than you actually think. You all know this. Put $20 dinner on a credit card, pay it over 10 years because you always make the minimums. You got a balance on there. Pretty soon you look back and you paid $200 or something, $300 for what was a $20 dinner. So once you learn that trick, you kind of just shred credit cards. You never look at them again. Some people say, oh, I pay them off all the time. I get my airline miles. Some people don't. But I choose not to give them any money, business. I don't even want to have the exposure. And I don't want the credit card companies even knowing my name. I just don't like them. I despise them. So, millennials, stop what you're doing. Stop refinancing your truck to put new rims on it. Stop refinancing your house to go to Hawaii and drink Mai Tais. Go buy some good drink mixes and make the Mai Tais in your house and turn on some tropical themed music and pretend you're there. Save up. When you get the cash, buy the airline ticket, then fly there. Have the experience. Stay in a hostel, sleep on the beach, rent a van. There's all kinds of cost-effective ways to do things. Just do it smart, do it cheap. But don't go in debt to execute a vacation lifestyle, and try not to keep up with the Joneses. You see all these people, a lot of times you wonder, you look at their occupation, you know what they do, and maybe they're a friend of yours or a family member, and you look at them on social media and you're wondering how they live this lifestyle. They're always posting these trips or these new vehicles or whatever. Well, again, a lot of times that is debt, and eventually, well, they come knocking and they need their pound of flesh. So it's better not to have to pay interest and go into debt in the first place. Boy, we're slow going today, aren't we? Slow getting off. It's hard to get the old engines fired up again. But I'm sure we're going to see some new stuff come out here eventually that'll get me fired up. Just give it a couple of days, a couple of stories. Wait till Hillary gets elected, and the world just starts to go, or either one for that matter, either one. Herpes or hemorrhoids? Which one do you want? Herpes or hemorrhoids? Now, the next thing, we can't forget Europe, because Europe always seems to be, it's either Greece or Portugal or Ireland, or Spain or Italy. It's always one of them being discussed. And today it's Portugal's turn to take some heat. So why Portugal could be Europe's next economic disaster. There's just a long line of people in Europe's soup kitchen waiting to be the next economic disaster. And right now, that individual, that nation is Portugal. Over the past few weeks, fears have mounted that the country's weak economy will prompt a credit rating downgrade, making Portuguese bonds ineligible for the European Central Bank's quantitative easing program. Those jitters have pushed up the yields on Portuguese government paper, with the yield on 10-year debt jumping above 3% this week. That's up from around 2.3 less than a year ago. So Portugal's looking like it might be in trouble. A major bond sell-off upon a downgrade could force Lisbon to apply for help again. We'll see what happens there. Keep your eye on it. Europe's a mess no matter what. I think Europe's over. I think it's done. If I was in Europe, I guess we have some European viewers on the channel, I'd come up with a game plan. I'd evac. I'd exfil. I'd get out. Honestly, I'd call for immediate exfil to get out. I just was listening to NPR the other day on my way to work, and I heard a story about Italy picking up 6,000 migrants, most of them Somali, North African and Somali migrants, picking them up because their boats did not have enough fuel to make it across the Mediterranean to Italy, so they were rescued and brought to Italy. So, 6,000 people, boom, snap of the fingers. It's happening every day. You know, they talk about the loose border here in America, and it's really small potatoes compared to what's happening in Europe. I mean, Europe is just being inundated. And with the social welfare programs Europe has in place, there's no way they're going to be able to afford this. They do not have the industry. They do not have the commodities, the industrial base, the mining, the manufacturing, the oil. They don't have anything. And Europe doesn't even have colonies anymore. Not that that was a good thing, but it was a way for them to supply their insatiable appetites for goods and things like that. But I just don't see Europe as coming out of this doing very well. I think they're going to enter another dark ages. It's going to be like the fall of the Roman Empire, just that period immediately following that. Just a little bit chaotic. Some cities might get burned down and looted. It might not be the safest place to hang out. You might not want to just walk down the street or drive a highway or byway because you might get jumped by bandits. I don't know. But Europe just seems like it's in a fragile state. If you're there and you have the economic means, you might want to relocate. I think some people are doing that. We're seeing it. You're seeing it. I'm sure other remote parts of the world are seeing an influx of wealthy Europeans that are, paying attention a little bit more than their guy next door. So, again, Europeans paying attention. German savers look like they're waking up. German savers losing faith in banks, stashing cash at home. Only terrorists do that. Low interest rates and the prospect of fees on bank deposits are helping drive a boom in home safe sales. Could be other reasons for that. Maybe they're getting out. Hamburg German savers are leaving the security of savings banks for what many now consider an even safer place to park their cash, home safes. And you know what? When people pull money out, you don't know where it goes. It could be cash today. It could be gold and silver tomorrow. A lot of these Germans, you think they're just keeping it in cash? Obviously, they're smart. They know what's going on. They're paying attention. They're pulling money out because they don't trust the banks. I think a lot of them are buying gold. That's from personal experience and friends and family, and myself included. I know that a lot of times when you pull money out and you got cash, you might turn it into some metal. So Germans are losing faith in banks. They're rushing to buy safes. They're taking the money out. They don't trust it. This is a theme. This is happening globally. A Deutsche Bank CEO warns of fatal consequences for the savers. You got this chart here comparing Deutsche Bank to Lehman. That's an interesting chart there. As we all know, Lehman ended up going kaput, to use a German word. So things are shaking, things are shifting, things are moving. It's 2016. We're heading into an election year. We're heading into 2017. What's going to happen then? Well, it's not going to be better than this year. I can guarantee you that. we're on a slippery slope. Things are not improving. Things are not as good as they seem. Oh, I'm being pessimistic. I'm Debbie Downer. All right. Or I could just be being realistic. Um, that's the thing. A lot of times people say you're pessimistic when really, in actuality, you're being realistic. Um, they're just being naive. So I have found that to be the case a lot of times in the past, that people that accuse you of being a Debbie Downer or pessimistic, well, they're just an unrealistic person that doesn't like to face reality. And the reason for that, I've mentioned this theory in the past. And once a person admits that there are certain things occurring in the world, it then makes them responsible to make certain decisions based upon that new outlook, that new viewpoint of reality. Once they have switched the tracks in their mind and realize that the world or the consequences that surround them are now headed in a different direction, and that there might be some changes they need to make in their lives personally, like cutting back on recreational or hedonistic activities, maybe saving a little bit and putting money into other things, maybe preparation equipment, paying off a debt, paying off a mortgage, the things that aren't fun. Maybe buying some gold, maybe some silver, putting some cash in a safe, things like that. That's not fun. That's not tequila and a night out on the town with your friends making bad decisions. It might be considered, quote, boring, but once you accept that the world is headed in a certain direction, you have to change the decisions you're going to make in order to properly and adequately prepare for the situations you might be confronted with in the future. A lot of people can't do that. I've realized that. People are not the same. We're not all cut from the same cloth. I look around every day and realize that person's not going to survive. That person's not going to survive. Do it today. Play the game. It's a fun game. I just kind of thought of it to tell you guys. I'll pass it on. I guess I've never told you guys before. But as you're going through life, just kind of pick people out. If you're in America, go to a Walmart. You will see a lot of people that will not survive. Fill in the blank situation. I try not to go to Walmart, so it's kind of difficult to make those observations there. But if you do get an opportunity, you're driving down the street, you're in traffic, you're at a parade, you're at a sporting event, whatever, a PTA meeting, you will identify people who will not survive even the most benign consequences or deteriorations in modern society. They won't make it. And that matches up perfectly with a huge study that was done several years ago. We're running out of time here. We've only got about a minute and a half left, so I wrap this up. It was passed on to me by a friend. It was a big study. It was a lot of questions. It was a survey. It was actually put out by a totally legit survey company. I forget the name. Hopefully one of you guys can maybe find it. And I think I mentioned it in a video in the past. Anyways, the survey asked people a series of questions regarding the grid going down and modern society basically crumbling in certain areas. And it was phrased in many different questions and formats. But it was a long survey. And you would not believe how many people gave up. The percentage of people that immediately gave up. There were people that said within a week or 2 weeks, I forget, of electricity being out, they would rather be dead than survive. They would either kill themselves. And there was even people, and that was one thing, was the number of people that gave up. And then the other one was the number of people that would have crossed the line of morality or civility in order to feed themselves and to make it. So some people would rather die, just give up and quit. Other people became very predatory, and it was like after 3 days they'd kill their neighbor for a sandwich. So civilization doesn't really. It's a very thin line there. I think it could break down fairly quickly. You'd have a lot of people just kill themselves because they can't handle it, or just starving, not making it, and then you'd have people that are very aggressive. So, anyways. That wraps that up. I guess that's a good beginning of the new season of the Junius Maltby channel. Thanks for being here. Thanks for joining us. Buckle up. Again, pay attention. Join the conversations. Thanks for being part of this channel. I appreciate your support, your liking, and your sharing. Thanks for being here.